For my honors project presentation, I will be comparing historical versus contemporary parenting styles through a slideshow timeline. The first time period I will be talking about is the 1950s through the 1960s. So, the main parenting style through this time period was the authoritarian parenting style, which was very parent driven, strict, parents expected obedience, and it revolved around one way communication between the parent and the child. So, when you look at parenting styles and one of the major influences of the time, it you can look at the publication of the book the of the Common Sense Book of Baby and Child Care by Dr. Benjamin Spock. This book was very influential for its time and was very revolutionary because it encouraged parent empowerment and it specifically encouraged that empowerment of mothers and encouraged parents to truly just trust themselves when parenting. This book was just a very foundational piece of parenting styles of that time period. The book emphasized treating children as individuals, as well as it explained the behaviors and the motivations of those behaviors. So this book was very, like I said, very influential book. The first edition was published on July 14th, 1946, and was a key part of parenting through the 1950s and 1960s. So Um, this book also has had several editions, with the most current edition being in 2018. And when comparing the two, you'll see different views and beliefs from medicine, from gender roles, disciplinary actions, and social issues, which are all topics that I will be talking about later in this presentation. So, when we look at this time period and we look at family dynamics, um, we look at the traditional family, and it's important to understand family dynamics when it comes to parenting because family and its dynamics has so much influence on the kid and how they're raised. And when we look at the family dynamic of the 1950s and 1960s, you get a traditional family, or the quote unquote the nuclear all American family, which had a high emphasis on family, the family unit, and marriage. And during this time period, there was a very low divorce rate, which is completely different from now. And during this traditional, or when you look at this traditional family model, you get a breadwinner father and a housewife mother. And during this generation, it was the kids the kids of the silent generation, which raised the baby boomers. And during this time period of the baby boomers, there was a lot of kids, there's big families, and yeah. So when you look at the education expectations uh, that parents put on their kids during this time period, you see that when parents raised daughters, that they had expectations for them not to go to college, but in fact to get married right after high school and become a housewife. That was the expectation for daughters. However, when raising sons, the expectation was for them to go to college, for them to get a career and to be successful, so they can become the breadwinner of their family and be able to provide and support their family as their wife will become their housewife. When we look at discipline in parenting during this time period, there was a lot of corporal punishment, meaning spanking, whipping, any physical disciplinary action towards children from parents. So the discipline was mainly focused on the negative bad behavior and the immediate correction of that bad behavior. And there was a big emphasis on that bad behavior to correct it. And like I said, authoritarian parenting style was the main parenting style of this time period. Very strict. Parents expected obedience, and they wanted control. Um, in that relationship between the parent and the child. So I chunked the 1960 to the 2000s parents, the parenting into one group because in my paper portion of my project, I mainly only talked about the 1950s and 60s in current and parenting styles, but um, I did want to include just the major influences that this generation had on parenting. So when you look at parenting styles in the 60s and 70s, there was a shift from authoritarian parenting styles to permissive parenting styles. And parents really truly gave children just the freedom uh, to do what they like to do outside. So like I said, during in the 80s, it was no different. Very laissez-faire parenting style. Kids were encouraged to play outside unsupervised, which really cultivated independence for kids during this time period. And the main parenting style of this time period, from the 70s through the 80s, was permissive parenting, meaning that the kids just let them do as they do. Um, Not a whole lot of discipline. They kind of just let them be independent. Um, and when it comes to the kids expressing their emotions during this time period, there was a lot of the saying "rub some dirt on it," which was very dismissive for kids back in this time period. However, one of the key shifts in parenting was in the late 80s and early 90s, where helicopter parenting became a parenting trend during this time period, meaning that parents were very just uh, overbearing parents, which how they got their title of helicopter parents. So when we look at the another shift during this time period in the late 80s, schools started banning corporal punishment in their school system, which shifted the parenting dynamics, which ended up parents not using as much corporal punishment in their parenting styles. So now I'm going to talk about the 2000s, the present parenting. So when you look at parenting styles in this time period, or more specifically in the present day parenting, there has been a rise of affirming parenting styles, which has been centered on positive affirmation and celebrating child's individuality, as well as validating children's feelings. Also, gentle parenting has been on the rise, which emphasizes guiding children through decision making, no threats or punishment. And according to one of my sources, 74% of millennial parents practice this form of parenting. Um, and during this time period, um, there's a lot of open communication between the parent and child. There's a lot of flexibility, and there's a big emphasis on emotional intelligence, mental health, and the well-being of the child. So when you look at the family dynamics during this time period, there's a high divorce rate. 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. As of 2024, families live far apart, meaning there's not as many support systems close to the child, close to the family. There's an increase in rate of single parents, which ultimately leads to a limitation of parent free time where parents can spend time with their kids, resulting in kids not getting the attention that they need. When looking at discipline in this time period, um, there was gentle parenting was a big part of current parenting. So gentle parenting means that at least the discipline side of it means that no threats or punishment towards your child. Um, So, modern discipline is very mindful of the child's mental health. That is very important with modern parenting. And some modern um, disciplinary techniques has been timeouts and using natural consequences and logical consequences. Timeouts are helpful because it teach kids how to regulate emotions. It's a good way of just for both the child and the parent to both just separate from oneself to truly just take a second, take a breather. And it also just teaches teaches children that disruptive behavior does not equal positive reward, and it also teaches consequences for your actions. And yeah, like I said, teaching children natural consequences is big for current parenting, meaning that if a child won't eat dinner, then they will be hungry, and logical consequences, meaning if a child makes a mess, then they have to clean it up. One big part of just current parenting and parenting in the past 10, 15, 20 years has been the rise of technology and its influence. So in the past 25 years, the internet has risen up, which has had a major influence on parenting, which has its upsides and downsides. Um, just technology in general has its upsides and downsides. The internet, its upside is it can be a very helpful source for parents to just learn tips and get support from other people in their experiences. On the other hand, technology can distract parents away from their children, and also just the internet in general can sometimes cannot be isn't safe for children with cyberbullying and just all the bad and weird stuff that happens on the internet. It just can, in some cases, cannot be. It isn't a safe place for children. Um, Another big part of just current parenting and a big debate in modern parenting is the use of iPads, giving your parent iPad or giving your kid an iPad. There's both pros and cons. Um, the pros of an iPad is its education value. The games, you can get games for your child on an iPad that can help them develop vocabulary and math skills. Um, the iPads can also offer on-the-go entertainment for long car rides, and it also can be used for positive reinforcement for good behavior. However, on the flip side, the cons of having an iPad or giving an iPad to a kid, according to the University of Rochester Medical Center, can iPads can result in attention difficulties, social interaction challenges, sleep issues, and neurological impacts. So the last thing I wanted to talk about in just the time frame of the 2000s to the present time, or just in general, from the 50s all the way to the present time, has been the economical shifts. So this has influenced parenting because the price of living, the price of housing, the price of food, even the price of education has skyrocketed, meaning that the expectations um, on kids shifts, and the way kids are raised shifts, and the increase in all of this has really made a major impact on the way that parents raise their kids. But yeah, that is the end of my presentation.